it just, all right, okay, so now, so I'm recording on 2 devices.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just to make sure. Start recording. I'm just going to keep my screen cancel. Okay, sure. Okay, so no, so that's hopefully that's
It says it's recording on my end.
yeah, but I have this other thing that we'll set up for me. And so okay, so it is recording. I just saw that it's recording. Okay, all right, perfect. So once again, let me just begin by saying thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. It's I've looked at it and I went through your interview, which I probably should have done way back 10 years ago.
I can't even remember. Did you have the book already? And
no, the book is not done, which is the people want the book. And so essentially
how long has the book been in the works?
I'm sure 10 years now. But because I'm doing other things, but they want the.
Did you get an advance and everything?
I got it. Well, we don't get advance. They don't give academic.
This is for the university. This is not a private.
And but we don't get some people do get advance, especially if they're doing trade press. I'm not doing a trade press. I'm doing a university press. What I do get is an advanced contract. So this is not necessarily money making. I think that for the first book, I probably got maybe $1,500 total over the last 10 years, right? But
but it's good to build that level of that legacy that you're building. And
exactly. So it's
so important. Thank you so much for capturing this. This is historic evidence,
Yeah, exactly. So it's not precise. Yeah. So it's not like people say, I tell people, well, I'm not making money. Like, this is not money. This is the
no, I know that. I just thought, oh my God, if it's taken a decade, are they gonna have you reached your contract?
The calling. No, it's my calling. It's my
calling.
That I know. I mean, I got the first book. I remember they sent me a check. It was $250. The first check, and then I get $50, $70. But whatever. It's doing it, right?
So you've been a professor now for how long?
Forever. I've been at Illinois for 18.25 years. And then I was at St. Cloud for 3 years. So 20-something plus years. Yeah. I know.
Congratulations, my Jamaican sister.
Yes,
congratulations.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you, man, and what a time to be an academic and to be writing our stories. What a renaissance that we're going under.
Yeah.
And your work was ahead of its time, and now it's right on time.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yes. It's true, because when I see all the people, traveling and doing all this stuff, I was like, man, I interview people. Like, I was talking to this guy last night. I was like, how old are you? Now he's like 37. I was like, okay, well, I interviewed you when you were 29. I need to get this book done. Like, he is, because I think I interviewed you when you were 30-something, right? And I'm 53. So I was like, okay, the book is going to be done. So I'm on sabbatical, sure. So so the book is going to be done, even if it's going to be done.
I'm on a leave of absence from my full-time job as well, and I've transferred into my creative realm. I don't think I'll be going back to my work on frontline work. It's too much. It's very stressful, and I've adopted a little girl. And
I think I saw you on Instagram. That is so.
Yes, and I have a hubby from Ghana, and it's just a lot.
Oh, is he from Ghana? From Ghana?
Yes, he relocated here in March 2020.
Oh, nice.
Good, the world was ending, and he's like, why let this godforsaken place?
I'm sure. But that's great. Yeah, my friend, she's dating someone. She's dating someone here. She's dating someone too. Well, we'll talk about that at the end. And
let's do our thing.
She's like, well, he needs to, whatever. Anyway, we'll get through that.
We'll talk about that. It's so good catching up with you off record either way.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm so glad your energy's the same.
Yeah, I know. Praise God, right? I give God praise.
Yes.
I still try, So anyway, so I'm going to go back. So I have 8 questions.
Okay. And so I don't remember what I said or what I was feeling at the time.
I got it all here.
Okay.
So anyway, so basically this chapter, I didn't anticipate when I interviewed you way back 10 years ago, right? So this chapter, basically what it is, it focuses on paid work outside of teaching, even though you did paid work while you were teaching, right? So basically, it's people that focuses on really just 4 people, you, Gina, and these 2 other people who found other avenues to make money that is not associated with teaching, except you're the exception, right? So basically, so I read through the entire interview, and so I have like 8 questions. All right, so I'm going to start.
Well, this is actually a pivotal time. This is actually really good because for the first time I've returned to the arts and I'm being paid for the arts in a miraculous way. And I call it strategic reparations. Because the grant I've been floating on grants for a year and I was terrified. I've never stretched my faith so much than to be a full-time creator. I'm working with youth with mental health, drug addiction, and homelessness. And now as a mom, not wanting to be drained and angry and stressed out, and then working in a toxic work environment where I was being micromanaged, and I couldn't process the data entry and all that stuff. We were doing more paperwork than people work.
Right, yes.
And I felt like if I don't crunch these numbers and get these reports in, but my client's in crisis though, and there's no way to quantify the work that I'm doing in people's lives.
Right.
And I just recently got diagnosed with ADHD and complex PTSD.
Okay.
So now that I understand how my brain works, I realize I'm not incompetent, you know?
Yeah.
And I think about my parents who didn't know.
Yeah.
My friends who didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
How many impulsive and emotional and reactionary experiences that I've had. And
because you mentioned it in the interview too. Like, I don't remember. Yeah, you said that that came up. I think this is also, divine. But one of the things that you said in the book, you said here is that if there's anything that you wanted me, you said that if there's anything, what you wanted me to do was to apologize to people on your behalf. If you write anything in this book, I'm gonna find it. Because I thought, oh wow, yeah. I think that you articulated it in the interview, a lot of stuff you went through. And now when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, now that there's a diagnosis, it makes sense. So I hope
that diagnosis is so liberating. And I
really
know it's anti-medication, but if I can just get my brain to work in a way that I'm not emotionally and physically exhausted, and that my emotions and my you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Diversity is,
yes,
it's a blessing and a curse because of my ADHD. I have creative ideas that they just flood me. I talk to my friends. I was like, it's like when people speak in tongues.
Yes.
So when somebody comes to me with something and they're creative or they have a business idea or something, my brain starts going. So I'm like, get a notepad right now because I don't know what I'm going to come out with and I can't repeat it because it's just, and it's like God gives me visions. I'm like, you should do this, connect with that, and then it's done, right? So my brain just doesn't stop. And I need it to stop sometimes so that I can calm my nervous system. And so the high stress living in Asia and the direct anti-Black racism and the undiagnosed and the traumas that were unaddressed. And I'm in such a better space now because I can calm myself. You know what I mean? And I can say, I'm going to rest and I'm not going to do any work and the world's not going to fall apart.
Absolutely, because I think that we've been socialized to do that too, especially as Black women.
This hypervigilance. I watched a video on Black excellence and she was a believer too. And she's like, I don't care about Black excellence. She's like, it's extreme capitalism.
Oh yeah, well I'm into Black mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because Black mediocrity is still Black excellence.
Yeah, and I'm like, can I be mediocre? Can I just live?
I'm so over, like I am so over all of that. I'm so over.
Our parents didn't know. They didn't know.
They just, yes, and they just didn't know. But I know that. I think that's really fascinating that you.
So I stepped away from, that. I said I feel like. It took almost a year, it's like Stockholm syndrome where how do I explain to my family and my friends that I don't want to go back to the government job? how do I say I'm too stressed out, or I am too tired, or I am too uninterested or drained. They're looking at you like, what the heck? Yeah. But I prayed about it and I asked God and I started writing grants, and every single grant that I wrote, I got. Right. So then I got anxiety because I'm like, how am I going to go back to my job when I had to complete all these projects? And God was like, I am your source. I don't want you to go back. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I kept negotiating my prayers. I was like, okay, well, that first grant is good, but that's going to run out in about 6 months, Jesus. Right. I'm going to have to need a little bit more. Yeah. Well, that's good. Congratulations on this path that you're, thank you. This path that you're in my 50s. I'm 51 and I'm doing the things that I wasn't able to do in my 20s and 30s because there was no space for Black artists and creatives to make a living. Yes, I know. Yeah, you mentioned this in here so many times, which I think is why you had all them jobs. Because one, you had a loan, you had to pay back loans, and then the fact is that Canada wasn't offering what it was at the time. You know, and I see the same thing with jobs now. People keep saying to me, "Hey, when are you gonna apply?" And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good at Illinois. I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. Work-life balance and and your calling, like you say, and that whole phrase that I love is that God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. Yes. And it's really my life, and all the things that I did in my 20s and 30s are coming full circle because I always felt like I wasn't a successful artist because I didn't get it on the mainstream media. I wasn't in television or films or touring the world or on a major label. But all that work that I did was not in vain. That was my practice. That was my self-taught, trained practice. Yes. And rap. Yeah. I was in poetry, and then I did hip hop, and then I did songwriting, and then I was interested in acting because Kim Fields was everything to me. She was the first actress that looked like me. I wanted my mother when I was a little girl to put my hair like Tootie. You know what I mean? And because of her, I get emotional when I see Kim Fields. I'm just like, because of her, I wanted to be an actress because she looked like me. And she was sassy like me, and she had braces. I wanted to get braces because Tui had braces, right? And so I was bit by music and acting and songwriting and advocacy and all of those things because I told my mom I was going to move to New York, because that's where hip hop lived and that's where Blackness was and that's where Jamaican culture was so infused because we were at that root of that movement. And so I was in the PE at KRS-One, and I was like, yes, okay, I'm ready, And so you were performing too, and you were performing a lot. And I was in ciphers, and I was doing a lot in Montreal. And my mother would be like, where are you going now to do this rap thing? Like, what are you doing? And I wasn't getting paid. So they didn't understand. Like, why would I leave my house and go to this radio station every Saturday for years? Like over 5 years on a regular from 7 to 9 every Saturday and take my bus fare, you know what I mean? And travel outside of my suburban home in the dead of the night to do what? Right? That was my voice. This was our social media. Everyone tuned in to that show. You knew who was breaking up, who had beef. You understand? Because the shout-outs were like a double entendre. That was our Twitter. You know what I'm trying to say? That was we got clapbacks. I had breakups. I did my own breakups, my own clapbacks before there was clapbacks. It was if it was said on the radio station during everyone's listening to shout-outs, trying to read between the lines, right? Absolutely right. Yeah. And synonyms and acronyms and and hidden messages. That was our Underground Railroad, Yeah. So you are the first. Sorry, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the first. I am one of the first. I don't know if there's never a one of the first. So I started rhyming in, I would say, like 87, 88. And people got to know me in the 90s. But there are a lot of other MCs, I think, of Nova Scotian descent. I think there's a female MC of Nova Scotian descent who was who was the first in Montreal. But I think I became popular because I had an outlet, right? So people dubbed me the first. And until I was corrected, I didn't realize. But because people had not, and I also came from the suburbs, there was this whole class issue that how did this girl from the suburbs, right, from Laval, we were from Laval, Lavalois, come here, and I was never a freestyle rapper. I would just wait until it was time, and I would battle with the rhymes that were already written. And I was told people wrote my rhymes because they didn't expect somebody who lived where I lived with two parents and what they consider the Cosby Show life to have that level of aggression. But the racism was still real, and the anger was still real, and the alienation was still real. It didn't matter that I had a nice home. You know what I mean? I still under the Black experience, right? So I was fighting a lot of stuff, and I wasn't that well liked in certain circles, but I was respected in others, And I had my close, friends who were like,
Yeah.
I was always kind of like outside of stuff in a way.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna move to Taiwan now.
Yes.
The next, so the next question is as follows: you have a lot of experience in the arts and entertainment. How did these various experiences prepare you for the various non-teaching position roles you pursued in Taiwan?
That was my groundwork. Like growing up during a time where things were not done for clout or for followers. Like when I watch, when you think about Eminem's, docudrama, like he captured it so well. Or the real Roxanne, the Roxanne Shante story on Netflix. Like it was gully. Like those guys are in a cipher, and I'm like, yo, let me get my turn. And they're like, we don't need a singer. I'm like, I'm not here to sing. We don't need a dancer. I'm not here. Just give me the mic. That whole drop the mic and grab the mic. You literally had to physically grab the mic and wrestle it out of somebody's hand. And sometimes you'd be on that stage and the sound would go out. Sometimes you'd be on that stage and the DJ's needle skipped. You know what I mean? On the record. And that's why you had to have the beatboxer. That's why you had to be able to go a cappella and still rock the crowd. Like you have to do it. You had to be the ultimate entertainer. And I think being a Jamaican, I'm like, you can't, I have to destroy you today. Right. I have to destroy you today because your only thing is your reputation. That's all you have. And if you go to school and you go back to the club the next week and people heard how somebody destroyed you, that's it for you. There's no other outlet for you, right? So I'm highly competitive like that. I don't know where I get it from. My ego is just like out of control when it comes to the arts, and then mad humble when it comes to other stuff. And so it was a blood sport, literally and figuratively. And I grew up in Montreal, where you combine the Jamaican, assertion and warrior type mentality.
So you also worked at a radio station as well.
That was so tough.
I know that.
I worked at ICRT. Gina did much better. Gina handled these situations so much better than I did. I couldn't handle some of them.
What was your role?
I was the morning news anchor.
You were the morning news anchor. Okay.
A friend had held the position previously, but her and her family were moving to Thailand because she got a position as a dancer.
I saw that.
Yeah. So and all she kept telling me was be careful. She didn't tell me anything else. I'm like, what do you mean be careful? She's just like, careful. It's almost like she didn't, and I feel like, why didn't you tell me more? Were you afraid that I wouldn't take the position, or did you think maybe I could just, navigate around it? And so I experienced some very traumatic things there.
It's well done.
Handle it.
Is it? Yeah. You told me all about it. But particularly what I wanted to ask you about was, did you ever interview Desmond Tutu?
I did. I interviewed Bishop Desmond Tutu, and I said the silliest question. The way I phrased it shows you how the anti-Black racism enters our mind. I said to him, my first question was, how did it feel when we gained our freedom, after apartheid or something like that? And he said, we were always free.
Yeah. So do you remember? Oh my God, this is so exciting because in it, it's not clear that you had. I think that the whole thing was so upsetting for you that it didn't.
I was so angry because they were trying to prevent me from interviewing him.
I saw that, but it never said in here, which is a lesson for me about, my next interviews, whatever. Anyway, so you talked about the whole experience, but I never. So I was left with. I was like, did she ever interview?
My brain sometimes, for all you know, my brain went in so many different tangents.
It did. It really did. It did.
So don't doubt your writing skills, because my brain is all over the place, right?
Right. No, it was clear. It's clear in here because there was so much stuff. Like I was like, oh my gosh, and I should have known, but it is what it is. So you interviewed. Okay, so you worked for ICE.
So after asking them, there was some sort of democratic organization or something, some sort of human rights charity organization, and they were so happy to have Bishop Desmond Tutu there. And so I'm working at ICRT. Like, I'm not just some regular person trying to interview this person.
Right.
But I also happen to be Black. So, like, let's just go there, right? You want to talk about post-apartheid and then inflict apartheid on me? Like, what are we doing, right? And we were part of a group called Descendants of African People, which was that great community grassroots organization that a young African-American woman had started. So I'm like, I'm a DAP member, I'm on ICRT, and I'm Black, and I'm a journalist. I did this interview, and we're in Taiwan. Like, are any Black people going to be in the room? And I don't think there were any other than me and Bishop Desmond Tutu, right? And had I not been there, he would have been the only one, right? And there's a large Black community in Taiwan, and they didn't even reach out to us, right? So when I asked them, they said, I'm sorry, I don't think that, it's already been booked up, da-da-da-da-da. And then I said, well, and I don't know if I did it by email or by phone. And I said something along the lines of, it was very highly disappointing to know, for Bishop Desmond Tutu to know, that a Black journalist is being denied the opportunity to speak to him post-apart. And so I always have to fire these shots to get into spaces.
Yeah.
Something similar happened here when I had to interview Jamie Foxx. Something very similar happened here with that. And I was like, what the heck?
And also in Taiwan, Jamie Foxx?
No, in Toronto, I remember something similar happening when I had to interview him when he was releasing the Ray Charles movie, and I had to go around. And we were invited to the press, but then I wasn't allowed to. So with Bishop Desmond Tutu, I just remember that one question. I may have asked some others. I cannot find the recording. I don't know where my things are. I don't know. But I do remember asking him how it felt once we were, freed from apartheid, and him saying, they didn't give us the freedom. That's a God-given right. And we, he's something to the effect of, then we were able to embody that God-given freedom. You know what I mean? But I felt ashamed that I didn't think twice about how I phrased that question. But he was still very kind and very patient. And my favorite quote from him, which, people have quoted all the time, is, when the Europeans came, we had land and they had their Bible, and they asked us to bow our heads and close our eyes, and then we opened our eyes and they had our land and we had their Bible. And yet he's still a bishop, right? So it's like that conflict, as believers, as Black believers.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm glad. I'm glad. So I'm glad that you interviewed. I'm glad you had the opportunity to interview him. So that's wonderful. I'm glad we're doing this interview because, boy, the information. I mean,
my mind was probably so jumbled and my brain was so scattered.
Yeah.
But I think I had a lot to share, and I was so happy.
You did. Yeah, you did. Yeah. And so, anyway, let me finish this up, and then we'll just chat about some other things. So you mentioned performing, singing at a number of events, launch parties, etc. Marc Jacobs Spring Wear, I think Moet Champagne.
Moet Chandon, yeah.
Chandon, is it Chandon?
Moet Chandon, yeah, Moet Chandon. I think it's CHANDON, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is a champagne company.
Okay, anything
else? I remember getting cases and cases and cases of Moet